Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot, and today we are getting on the tag only 10 indie I almost said indie dags. What? Indie decks? Put out by our very own Thea from Garden Goddess Tarot and Meg from Rose Honey Ritual. A few months ago, they put out a version of the Only 10 decks, Only 10 mass market decks, which I absolutely loved. I'm still watching people's responses from that because they're so much fun. And it's something I think about all the time because I feel like, I don't know, my top 10, especially with mass market, it shifts a lot. Anyway, I pulled out my top 10 indie decks, and interestingly enough, I thought this was going to be really, really hard. And not to say it was hard to select these. I am going to pull a Thea in this instance and probably have another video where I show kind of my runner-ups. But interestingly enough, this didn't feel as hard as the mass market one did. And while I was going through my decks, I realized that I'm quite the mass market deck girly, turns out. Anyway, I think we should just get right into it. And I'm not going to show them in any particular order or anything. We're just gonna, I've got them piled here, we're just gonna go for it. But we are gonna start off with probably quite an obvious one, and what I just had to include, and it is my very own Cottage Witch Oracle. If I had to think of, so how I went about this process was very much like, okay, if I can only keep 10 indie decks, what are they gonna be? And so I really wanted to select the decks that I truly reach for the most, and I think that's why I have runner-ups, is because there's so many that I do genuinely love, but I narrowed it down based on, alright, what are the 10 that I really use all of the time? And so I had to include this deck because it's my own creation. I mean, and of course I use it all of the time. This deck is always out, I'm always shuffling it and pulling cards from it. I use it pretty much every single day, if not multiple times a day. It's one I know inside and out, and yeah, I don't know, it's just, it feels like my perfect Oracle deck because, of course, again, I created it for myself originally, and then now I'm getting to share it with all of you, which is super, super cool. So this had to have a spot, and I love it. I love even just looking through it. Amazing. Okay, so that is the Cottage Witch Oracle. I need to get something to weigh this tray down. Ooh, fourth wall break there, kind of. This is not a table, it's a tray. Is that breaking the fourth wall? No, that doesn't really count. Behind the scenes, that's more what I meant. Alright, we're gonna use... Is that better? Okay, because everything was tipping. Alrighty. Next up, I've got my Animal Guide Oracle by Andy. This is another one that I had to include it because it gets absolute daily use from me. And Andy created this kind of based off of a practice we were doing together where, oh my goodness, Stevie. Did you hear that? She just, I don't know, spazzed out a little bit. Anyway, it was this practice we were doing together where we did these readings where we would pull cards from animal oracles as our guide for the day. And it was just this thing of like, we both have so many animal decks we absolutely love, but nothing was quite doing the job that we were aiming for. And so then Andy went on this months-long mission journey, you could call it, of creating this deck that like perfectly suited that need we had in a way, but then also took it into so many cool directions where there's chakra elements to this. It's just, it is the perfect animal deck to me. And there's also just so many cards. That was the other thing, is we were like, we wish that there was a deck that just had so many animals in it. And so she made it herself, which is so cool. And I really love the look of it. It's so practical in my practice. And so this had to have a spot. I love this one. It's so good. So that is the Animal Guide Oracle. And I will be good this time and really try and put links to everything below. If not, I will at least list them out. We'll see. I will at least list them out. All right, next up we've got my Memento Mori Oracle in this beautiful Sunset Bow tarot bag. Something about like the zipper, oh my gosh, it feels so special. I love it. I currently have this split up a little bit since it is a huge chonker of a deck. I've kind of got cards that are in use and some that aren't in use all the time. But anyway, this is another deck that sits on my desk at all times. So I've got 3 decks that stay permanently on my, it's not really my reading desk per se, but like my working desk, which is right next to the reading desk. So I do actually most of my readings at that working desk now. Because it's got a comfy chair. Anyway, I've got 3 decks that sit there, and it's Memento Mori, the Animal Guide Oracle, and Cottage Witch are the decks that are always, always out on my desk. And this one, it just feels like the perfect kind of catch-all, multi-purpose oracle. And what kind of feels, I guess, similar to me across these first 3 decks that I showed is that they're oracle decks, so they feel a little bit more expansive, I suppose, than a tarot. But they also are 3 oracles that I will use in readings all by themselves, where I'll pull multiple cards from each of these first 3 decks, and that will be my reading. And I just feel like it's really nice to have such functional, multi-purpose decks like that. I love the symbols in this deck. I love how it just feels like this living being in a way, because it just, as often as I choose for it to, it can keep growing and changing and expanding, because Claire Goodchild just continually offers expansion packs, or I'm part of her Patreon, so we get like single cards a lot, or we can purchase single cards. It's such a cool thing, and I really, really love that about this deck, that it feels like it's always changing and growing. I just feel like that's really, really unique. And I don't know, it's one I've had for a really long time, and it's just been a tried and true. I feel like a lot of people feel that way about this deck. So that is the Memento Mori Oracle. Thank goodness, I feel like I'm out of breath already. I gotta talk and breathe at the same time. Where do I learn how to do that? I don't know. Okay. Next we've got the Adventure Time Tarot. Now realizing, it matches my rocks so perfectly. My crystals, sorry, not rocks. They're crystals. But it matches so perfectly, the little bag I made. So this has been a long time favorite now. I think I actually got this in nearly a year ago now. This is a birthday gift that I bought for myself last year, because I think it came out. If it wasn't on my birthday, it was very close to it. But this is a deck based on the show Adventure Time, as the title suggests. And Adventure Time is just, it is a show that has become, not even has become, it has been very, very, very special to me, because it's just, it is my comfort show. If you are a neurodivergent person or know neurodivergent people, you'll probably have a similar experience where you've got certain shows or movies that you can just watch over and over and over again, and you just love it. And it's something where it's kind of like if I'm feeling out of sorts or just want to put something on, it's going to be Adventure Time every single time. And so I know the show very, very well. I know all these characters really well. And because of that, the way this deck reads for me is very unique. Where if I pull one of these cards, like if I pull the Hierophant, I'm gonna have an idea based on the tarot card of what the Hierophant means, but then I'm also gonna think of this character here who's Lemon Grab. My favorite character, by the way. Love him. And that's gonna really affect the way I'm seeing this reading. And I think because it is my comfort show, and now I kind of know it's on this level of, like, due to my neurodivergence, and, like, if you know the show at all, I think you will know that that makes sense. I feel like it is a show, like, really catered to that. Due to all those factors, it's a deck that really helps me work through some of those struggles of being a later diagnosed neurodivergent person. And it feels like it really understands me, understands that experience through these characters that I just know so well. So it's this cool thing where it's like that show has really been there for me for years now, and now I get to, like, morph my two interests together and have it be there for me through this deck. And it's just, it is so perfectly done. There's literally nothing I would change about it. I love it. So that is the Adventure Time Tarot by Catherine Hillier, I think is how you say it. Love that one. Next up, kind of on a similar vein, is the Iris Oracle. Now this one is actually, it's not new to my collection, but new within the past few months, and it has really surprised me, like, what a staple position it has taken in my practice. And I think the reason why is just while, again, I've kind of been dealing with the things that come with being a later diagnosed neurodivergent person, for some reason this deck really feels like it hits in that spot. It's definitely a kind of shadowy deck. It seems like it's geared towards, you know, that idea of shadow work. But for some reason, whenever I pull cards from it, and the way the guidebook is written, it feels like it really hits on the idea of feeling different in some way. And when I look at these images and the way they're drawn, that's the feeling that I get as well. And so it's just, again, been such a staple part of working through that for me. And even beyond that, you know, I wouldn't even say that all the cards in here are, like, really shadowy cards. I think it's decently balanced, which I love about it as well. So it's not going to come in as kind of sharp and jagged as, like, the Reclaim Oracle is, which has its time and place for sure. But this one just, it feels like one that I can use all the time. I don't really have to be sensitive to how I might be feeling in the moment, worried that it might be too much or anything like that. But again, it also really just feels like it understands what I am dealing with at the moment in this really interesting way, like this very interestingly specific way for me. So it's just, it really has become an instant favorite and, like, really a top 10. Also, look at the color I edged it in. Come on, so good. So that is the Iris Oracle. Okay. Kind of interesting. I feel like we've got a lot of oracles going on here, and I didn't expect that. Interesting. Okay, anyway, next up, we've got the Embroidered Graveyard Oracle. First of all, this one is just, it's so pretty. It's so pretty and shiny. I love it. Obviously, it's in my top 10. But this is another one that really, another oracle that feels like it can hold its own in a reading. And I think that seems to be a theme with the oracles I've selected here, is that they just feel like they bring so much to the table. This one, however, feels like it brings a lot to the table in terms of message. Kind of similar to like the Iris Oracle, where it's really about the message of the single card, where kind of like the Memento Mori, like that to me feels like it brings a lot to the table in terms of versatility. But the guidebook for this deck is so amazing, so fantastic. It's one of those where I can pull one card and I'm like, yeah, okay. I know exactly the full scope of the message that's trying to come across just with this single card. And I love that there's so many different ways to look at these cards. The guidebook has 3 different kind of categories of messages, so it really puts it into this lane of giving you like suggested ways of using the deck, and I just think that's really neat and unique. For example, there's a kind of like the more general oracle message, or it gives you like a spirit community message. I can't think of the third one now. I tend to read them all whenever I pull a card. But I think it's so cool, and it's just such a pretty deck, and I really like how it involves some mythology in here, and even like with this twins, kind of like some pop culture references even. I just think it's really, really a cool deck, and one that I just use all of the time. I really love it. So that is the Embroidered Graveyard Oracle. Alrighty. This one I probably could have started with as being maybe probably the most obvious selection of mine. And it is the Northern Animal Tarot. Now this is the new 3rd edition of the deck. My most used copy, I mean this is new, so that's not really a fair comparison, but the colors on this one are just so pretty, so I wanted to use this one. But when it came down to it, oh my goodness. If it came down to a thing of like, you can only keep 10, I probably would keep my 1st edition because I am so attached to it. I would be so genuinely sad if something ever happened to that deck. So actually, a lot of the times I will end up using this version now, which is so beautiful. I love the changed coloring of this deck. I like that it's in the tarot size now. But anyway, generally speaking, this is my first experience with a tarot deck, or this was my first experience with a tarot deck where I just felt so intensely connected to the deck right off the bat. And it was like the more I used it, the more I got to know it, the more it felt like it was almost getting to know me, if that makes any sense. And before that, like I had a few tarot decks, a few oracle decks that I mean, I still have copies of, I still really love, but I just hadn't really experienced that sense of connection to a deck. This was really the first one that happened with, which is so cool and just something I feel like I cannot be without. Like I just couldn't imagine not having a copy of the Northern Animal in my collection. It just, and also it's got these extra oracle cards, which I absolutely love. I've got them all in here. This version has the Fairy Realm card, which I really, really like. But yeah, I'm sure I've talked about this one ad nauseum now, but I mean, it's just, it's so good. It's so good. And it's funny because it's not even a deck that I necessarily use tons. So this is the one deck that breaks from that criteria of like most used. Grand scheme, I mean, it's probably up there, but generally, I don't use this deck tons and tons and tons, but it's just, it will always have a special place. I don't know. It's so good, it's so good. I don't have to keep explaining, but I almost just want to keep looking at it. Isn't it so beautiful? Like, it feels like it really directly speaks to me. It's one of those decks where I'm like, I don't need to see a guidebook, I know exactly what it's saying to me, which is so special. So that is the Northern Animal Tarot. Alright, we've got 3 more. Oh, I'm out of breath, oh my goodness. Why am I forgetting to breathe while I'm talking? Does anyone else do that? Okay. Let's go. Oh my gosh, this is another obvious one. I actually feel like, let me know if any of these are surprising to you, because I love watching these videos and like I could hear someone else talk about the same deck that they love for hours. But I always get nervous when I'm going to film these because I'm like, oh, like, is that annoying? Like, talking about Northern Animal again, is that annoying? So with these kinds of videos, I'm always like, oh, am I gonna be too repetitive? But then I kind of felt like I had some surprising selections, but this next one is not surprising. And it is the Coastal Curiosities Oracle. Another one I have talked about so constantly, but for good reason. I love the keywords in this deck. I love the vintage feel of this deck. I guess, no, maybe not. That's a lie. I was gonna say that's a theme running through here, but not really. Most of the time, it's a theme running through my collection where I really do love this vintage classic feel to a lot of my decks. And whimsical. Whimsical, I think, is a good word to describe my collection. And this one really fits the bill with all that. I already said I really love the keywords. I love this new edition, how the images chosen are kind of described and given a reason to. It's so versatile. It goes with, I swear, every tarot deck I have. I don't think I've ever pulled this out and been like, ooh, this doesn't go. Like, it always goes. It always does. And for that reason, she's a favorite. The creator is so incredibly nice. She's making a tarot deck. I can't even, like, screaming, crying, throwing up. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait. It's gonna be so good. It looks so good already on her Instagram. She's been showing pictures. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. So you will know, if you watch my videos, you'll know when it comes out, because I will be talking about it nonstop, and I will not apologize. So that is the Coastal Curiosities Oracle deck. We are down to our last 2. Oh, and it actually turns out they're ones that I like to use together. How exciting. Okay, so I really did try to also, oh, I didn't do a good job with that, did I? I made a somewhat effort of not picking out decks that were like super out of print or anything of that sort. Now, I do think some of these are maybe a little bit more difficult to get or require some waiting. That being the Northern Animal, it's not out of print. It's just she does very small listings so that it's more manageable for her. So like it just might be waiting. And I do believe that's the same with this next one. I'm not for certain though, but it is the Mysteries of the Black Madonna Tarot. I almost didn't include this again because I do think it's harder to get, and also it is at a price point that is just not accessible. It's just not. But I use it so often, and it just has felt like truly my most, I don't know what the word is I'm trying to find. Like my most moving deck in a way. Like it just feels really substantial and like it has really, like this one deck has shifted so much of my practice, which seems like what a wild accusation to make, but it's true, it's true. There's just so much in this deck and it really feels like this special spiritual experience using that, which again, sounds dramatic, I know. But that's what I gotta say on that. It's such a good one. I really, really love it. I'm not very good at describing these things, am I? But this is one that, it's a tarot, I use it as an oracle. I pulled this card 3 times when I first got the deck. Like, I didn't get to see any other card because I kept pulling this one. But I feel like when that happens, like, it just, you know the deck is just magical. And so, each of these is their own kind of diorama mini altar that the creator set up for each of these cards. And so, the concept of the deck is to feel like when you pull a card from it that you're experiencing this mini altar and that you can kind of set it up if you wish. I usually do. I tend to kind of focus on one of these cards for at least a day or two. Tends to be more that I'll leave it out and kind of just think about the message. It's almost like I'm setting up this little altar to that card, and it's filled with symbolism and stories about so many different deities across so many different pantheons and cultures, and it's just, there's so much in this deck, and it's so special in that way. So I couldn't not include it in this list because it just truly is a top 10 for me. So that is the Mysteries of the Black Madonna Tarot. But I do kind of think she brings it, you know, if you can't get it right now, it's not necessarily a thing of like she's not printing them anymore, it just might be a wait. Because I know she's coming out with a new deck soon, and I think what she said was she's not printing any more of the Black Madonna decks until she's puts that out. But then I assume it'll come back. Okay, anyway, last but not least, we've got the Tarot de St. Croix. Now this one is just, it's an interesting one to me because I did not really think I was going to drive with this artwork. Andy had this deck first, and then it came up for another printing on Kickstarter, and I backed it because I was able to get an early bird. But I was like, I don't know if this one's going to be for me. I kind of wanted to try it just to see what it was about. And then when I went on that trip in November with Andy, she brought this for me to try, and it just, we clicked right away. And this tarot is one that feels like it really directly connects me to divinity in some way. This is one that I often like to use alongside the Mysteries of the Black Madonna. It feels like it really gets to that dark goddess energy for me, which I really enjoy to work with. So that's pretty much what I use this tarot for, is working with that dark goddess energy. I pull this card all the time. I love the artwork in this deck, and I really love how Lisa de St. Croix views the different cards. This is another one like filled with mythology, which I think is so interesting how people make relations to that within these archetypes. It just goes to show like how great of an expanse just everything is. And I don't know, it's just really interesting to me, and it feels like I come away with something so substantial every time I use this deck. I don't know, I don't have enough good things to say. I mean, no, I didn't say that right. What's the right way to say that? It's not I don't have enough good things to say, because I got lots of... I can't think of the right way to say that, but you know what I mean. I love her artwork too. Seeing it in person, I'm like, yes, no, there is something so special about this deck. And no, it really does not fit my general aesthetic, but it's so good. It's so good, and I couldn't imagine not having this one because I do use it that much. So that, my friends, is my last of my top 10 indie decks. I hope this was enjoyable for you. I cannot wait to see some more VRs to this tag because, ooh, do I live for seeing people's like top favorites. I just think that's such a fun thing to talk about. But I think that's all I have to say. I will be back soon, again, to do a video of my runner-ups because I do have a lot of decks that I feel like could be slotted into this top 10, but they've just not gotten the same use that these ones have, or maybe they're just a little bit newer and I don't know them well enough yet. So, be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I hope you all have had a, when am I gonna post this? I don't know. I'm filming ahead of time for once. I know. Who is she? Probably, we'll say I hope you all had a good weekend. Maybe that'll line up. I don't know. If not, time and space is an illusion. I'll see you soon.